Scarlet Alamian and Prince Kyle had their whole future planned out before they were even born. Their families made a deal and straight up decided these two were getting married someday. But fast forward to a fancy royal ball, and that lifelong engagement goes up in flames. Right there, in front of everyone, Kyle dumps Scarlet and proudly announces he's done pretending to love her. Turns out, the prince wants to be with someone else, Taranza, his side piece. The crowd actually cheers for them, like it's the ending of a romantic movie instead of a public humiliation. Scarlet's standing there, stunned, wondering how everyone's suddenly cool with this walking red flag of a prince. But then the real reason hits her. Kyle starts running his mouth about how Taranza is kind, smart, and perfect, while Scarlet is cold and emotionless. He even calls the last 17 years of their engagement the biggest embarrassment of his life. He claims he's finally free. Yeah, free to be an idiot in public. Scarlet isn't just going to swallow that. She reminds him that their engagement wasn't his to cancel. It was arranged by both their parents. But Kyle, now fully brainwashed by love or stupidity, declares he can end at any time because apparently Scarlet's a criminal who's been tormenting poor Taranza out of jealousy. And right on cue, Taranza starts playing the helpless victim while Kyle adds more nonsense, saying Scarlet bullied her at the academy. Scarlet immediately calls that out as a lie because she's literally never even met Taranza until today. They're not even in the same class. But Kyle's logic isn't exactly alive and well. He decides Scarlet's just looking down on Taranza for being in the normal class instead of the elite one. According to him, Taranza told him all about the bullying, how Scarlet locked her in a bathroom, pushed her downstairs, and basically terrorized her. The prince is completely convinced he's dating a saint, and that Scarlet's some evil villain straight out of drama. At that point, Scarlet's patience snaps. She says fine, she'll accept the engagement's cancellation too. But she's got one last request before they officially part ways. Kyle's not interested in hearing anything from her, but Taranza, smug as ever, tells him to let the poor girl speak so she can move on. Kyle starts praising Taranza's kindness again, which honestly just makes everything worse, and asks Scarlet what her final wish is. Scarlet calmly walks up to them, clenches her fist, and says her last wish is to punch them, specifically, right in the face. Kyle's frozen, like he's trying to process if she's serious. But Scarlet doesn't wait for an answer. She swings, and Taranza gets clocked so hard it can make Muhammad Ali proud. The punch is clean, elegant, and years in the making. And that's where things get interesting. Because that single punch, it's not just rage. It's backed by a whole messy history. See, ever since she was a kid, Scarlet had a bit of hobby. She liked punching people. A lot. Every other week, someone got turned into her personal punching bag. Her brother Leonardo would lecture her non-stop about controlling her temper. But Scarlet always insisted there was a good reason behind every hit. Leonardo knew his sister wasn't just fighting for fun this time. She'd actually saved a commoner from some spoiled, noble kid. But even then, the sight of Scarlet covered in blood stuck with him. He told her to get it together, because she'd soon be introduced to high society at a noble ceremony. No more fists, no more fights. It was time to start acting like a proper lady. For Scarlet, that was basically like asking a tiger to eat salad. At that ceremony, her biggest test appeared in human form. Prince Kyle. Their first meeting went downhill fast. The guy looked straight at her and said she'd be his servant from now on. And Scarlet had to use every ounce of self-control not to rearrange his face right there. Since, unfortunately, this walking insult was not only the second prince of the country, but also her fiancé. That day marked the start of a long, painful chapter in her life. Kyle turned bullying her into a daily hobby. Pranks, humiliation, constant insults, he did it all. But with royal politics involved, Scarlet's hands were tied. Even her father couldn't intervene without risking the family's position. So she endured it, year after miserable year. By the time she turned 15, she'd built herself back up. She entered the National Academy as one of the top students and quickly gained fans for her grades and calm attitude. But fate clearly hated her, because guess who else was there? Kyle. The guy didn't waste a second before announcing to everyone that she'd still be his servant at school. Scarlet, now emotionally bulletproof from years of nonsense, didn't even flinch. She just kept her composure and ignored his childish games. A few days later, Kyle stormed in her class like a drama queen on caffeine, yelling at her to buy him lunch. Scarlet stayed polite, apologized, and said she'd get it right away. But that wasn't enough for his royal ego. He grabbed her arm and dragged her out of the classroom, leaving his lackeys behind to keep the other students quiet. It didn't take long for her to figure out what was really going on. Kyle had been demoted to the regular class because of his terrible grades, and now he wanted to take his anger out on her. His bright idea? Cutting off a chunk of her hair and taking it as a trophy. Even for someone with Scarlet's saint-like patience, that was a breaking point. She warned him to stop, or she'd go straight to her family about it. Kyle just laughed and called her father a royal lapdog. That was it. She was about to knock his spoiled soul out of his body. But then, out of nowhere, someone stepped in. Prince Julius, the first prince, happened to be nearby and stopped the fight before it turned into a full-on brawl. Kyle immediately backed off after getting an earful from his older brother. Scarlet was grateful and thanked Julius for the help. He told her not to worry about it. He was just saving his brother from more embarrassment, and struck up a bit of conversation afterward. For the first time, Scarlet met a royal who wasn't a complete disaster, and she actually respected him for that. Julius was well known as the strongest candidate for the next king, but most corrupt nobles hated that idea. They wanted the weaker, dumber Kyle on the throne instead. Easier to control, easier to manipulate. Still, Scarlet's respect for Julius took a turn when she learned he'd scored perfect marks in every subject, knocking her off her throne as the top student. She figured he must have worked incredibly hard for it, but when he casually mentioned that getting perfect marks was easy, she saw red. She doubled her effort, determined to beat him next time. And when she finally did, people started gossiping that Julius had lost on purpose just to make her happy. That rumor burned more than any insult. Scarlet, fed up, decided to avoid him completely. But Julius apparently didn't understand the concept of boundaries. He'd follow her after class, trying to chat, asking how things were going between her and Kyle. That's when Scarlet noticed something strange. Kyle hadn't harassed her in a while. Not since that incident with Julius. For once, peace and quiet actually existed in her life. Scarlet eventually figured out that Julius wasn't tailing her for fun. He was basically acting as a human shield, so Kyle wouldn't dare bother her again. For a moment, she almost saw him in a good light. The guy was smart, kind, and clearly had her back. But then Julius switched up out of nowhere and started flirting with her. Scarlet might have actually blushed a little, until he called her an interesting creature. That single phrase ended any potential romance before it began. Turns out, Julius wasn't joking either. The man literally thought of her as a fascinating subject worth observing. He even took notes on her behavior like she was a lab experiment. That was the exact moment Scarlet mentally added Julius to her people I'll punch someday list, right next to Kyle. Jumping back to the present, that long list of bottled up rage finally finds an outlet: Taranza's face. Scarlet throws a clean punch that sends Taranza flying across the ballroom, knocking out two random guys on her way down. The entire place goes silent. Kyle, who apparently has the self-preservation instincts of a chicken, screams at her, demanding to know what she's doing. Scarlet just stares at him and says she was simply irritated by his cruel words, and Taranza happened to take the damage. Then she turns to face the rest of the nobles, all of them frozen like statues. Every one of them corrupt, greedy, and fake. The same people who clapped when Kyle dumped her. She pulls out a pair of red punching gloves from her dress, the one she keeps around just in case. The nobles panic instantly, yelling for guards, but before they can even move, Scarlet knocks them out cold with a burst of magic. And then the real show begins. She wades through the crowd, dishing out punches left and right, treating the entire noble class like a free therapy session. Some nobles start begging for mercy, offering their slaves as protection. Yeah, actual slaves, in a kingdom where slavery's banned. That's when Scarlet decides these people aren't just trash, they're unrecyclable trash. No guilt, no hesitation. She activates her time magic, her body glowing as everything slows down around her. Her speed skyrockets, and what follows can only be described as divine punishment. Her fists become blurs of motion, labeled E for everyone. Within seconds, every noble in the hall is face down on the floor, unconscious or wishing they were. That leaves just one person standing, Kyle. Or rather, trembling. He's already lost control of his bladder, staring at Scarlet like she's some vengeful goddess. She walks up to him and tells him it's finally his turn. Right as she winds up her punch, her brother Leonardo bursts into the room, yelling for her to stop. But he's too late. Scarlet's fist connects, and Kyle goes flying straight into a wall with a crash loud enough to shake the chandeliers. She lowers her fist, exhales, and for the first time in her life, she actually feels at peace. When Leonardo saw all the nobles lying unconscious on the floor, he was horrified. Julius, on the other hand, looked like he was watching a comedy show. Scarlet was tempted to punch him too, but decided to hold herself back for now. She walked up to Julius and Leonardo to greet them, and both immediately asked what caused her violent outburst. At first, Scarlet spoke in a robotic, formal tone, saying something like, "They committed unforgivable crimes and tried to justify themselves, so I punished them on the spot." Julius stared at her in confusion and asked for the real reason. Scarlet shrugged and said, "They pissed me off, so I knocked them out." Leonardo nearly had a heart attack hearing that, while Julius burst out laughing. He said he wished cameras existed, so he could have recorded the whole thing, because the image of Scarlet wiping the floor with nobles sounded hilarious. Then he joked that she should have waited for him to arrive before starting her brawl. Scarlet told him that was a ridiculous request. Meanwhile, Leonardo started panicking, imagining all the trouble this would cause. Julius told him to calm down and promised to take care of everything. Just then, Scarlet felt dizzy. Before she could even react, she collapsed, and Julius caught her head before it hit the ground. 3 days later, Scarlet woke up with the sound of bells ringing in her head. As her vision cleared, She realized she had overused the divine power granted to her by Cronoa, the god of time. But before she could fully sit up, she noticed something strange. A maid was on top of her, holding a knife. Scarlet blinked and calmly asked, "Who are you?" The maid screamed for her to die and tried to stab her, but the attacker was too slow. Scarlet instantly reacted and punched her straight into a wall. The loud crash brought Leonardo running into the room. He froze, completely shocked that the first thing his sister did after waking up from a 3-day coma was punching someone through a wall. Once things settled down, Leonardo told her how worried he had been. A little while later, Julius walked in as Scarlet was finishing getting ready. He brought news. Her engagement with Kyle had been officially canceled with both families' approval. Kyle had been removed from the royal inheritance after being exposed for protecting nobles involved in slave trading. Every noble from the party had been arrested. Scarlet was pleased to hear it and asked if she would also face punishment. Julius told her no, she was far too valuable to the royal family for that. But he warned that, for a while, it might be hard to find a man brave enough to marry her after what happened. Then he smiled and added that he also had good news. Her little rampage had become a national sensation. Everyone was talking about the bloodstained lady, the woman who sent a group of corrupt nobles to prison with her bare fists. People saw her as a hero. Leonardo groaned, burying his face in his hands. Another terrifying nickname for his sister was the last thing he needed. But Julius cut him off, saying there were bigger things to worry about. Many of the nobles arrested held high positions in the government. Their biggest problem, though, was the prime minister, the man who had been Kyle's biggest supporter. Julius explained that even the king suspected something was wrong with Kyle's faction, so he created an organization called CIO2 to investigate it. Leonardo was the current head of that organization. Then Julius called in one of their agents, the man who had first infiltrated Kyle's circle and brought back critical information. The agent stepped forward, and to everyone's surprise, it was Sigurd, one of Kyle's old lackeys. Sigurd bowed his head immediately and apologized to Scarlet for how he had treated her before. Scarlet told Sigurd that he deserved an award for how well he acted while pretending to serve Kyle. The more she praised him, the more nervous he became. Julius found it funny and told her she could punch Sigurd if that would help her move on. Scarlet accepted, but only gave him a light tap on the cheek because, despite everything, he had saved her many times while working under Kyle. After that, she decided to leave. For the first time, she was free to do whatever she wanted now that she was no longer tied to Kyle. The first thing on her list was finding out why the maid had tried to kill her. The next morning, Scarlet went to the warehouse where the maid named Nanica was locked up. But when she arrived, she found the maid's clothes on the floor and no one inside. Suddenly, a wildcat jumped at her, but Scarlet quickly smacked it down. That's when she realized the maid wasn't human at all. She was a beast folk who could change her shape. Scarlet told her to turn back into a human so they could talk. The maid did, but she wasn't a woman anymore. In front of Scarlet stood a young boy, still trying to attack her. Scarlet noticed a slave crest carved into his chest, glowing faintly. That mark forced him to obey his master's orders, no matter what. She asked if he would tell her everything about his master if she managed to free him. He told her to go ahead and try. Scarlet took that as a yes, pinned him to the ground, and used her time magic to reverse the mark. In this world, everyone is born with the blessing of a god, but only a few people ever find out which god chose them. Those who do can use the powers granted to them. Scarlet was blessed by Cronoa, the god of time, which is why the royal family valued her so much. She used Cronoa's power to return Nanicus' body to the state it was in before he was enslaved. It drained a lot of her strength, but she succeeded. Nanica kept his word and told her everything. He said Prime Minister Godwin was the one who sent him. Godwin's son had been one of the nobles Scarlet knocked out of the party, and in revenge, Godwin ordered Nanica to assassinate her. But Nanica had actually been sent long before that to spy on her family. He explained that Godwin was a cunning man who placed spies inside noble families, learned their secrets, and then forced them to take part in illegal slave trading. Once they got involved, he used their guilt to control them completely. Scarlet decided that was enough. She was ready to march straight into Godwin's mansion and beat him up. But Nanica stopped her, saying that Godwin was always surrounded by guards, and it would be impossible to get close to him. He told her that Godwin would be attending a secret slave auction in a week, and that would be her best chance to get to him. Nanica didn't know where it would be yet, but he promised to find out and introduce her to the slave trader. He wanted revenge too, for what Godwin had done to him and his people. Scarlet agreed to his plan and took him along, unaware that Julius had overheard the entire conversation. A few days later, Scarlet and Nanica headed to the slums to find the slave trader. Along the way, Scarlet mentioned that she bought a chunk of myethil from a kid for 1 gold coin. Nanica told her she got scammed, but Scarlet didn't believe him. Then Julius showed up, following them without being invited. At first, he claimed he only came because he wanted to understand the lives of commoners, saying it would help him become a better king. When Scarlet pressed him, Julius finally admitted he'd overheard her plan. He said he couldn't miss the chance to watch some men get knocked out. Right after that, a gang of thugs showed up. Scarlet lit up. Finally, people she could actually beat. Nanica told her to hold back and let him try to talk first. He walked up and offered to pay them if they would take them to a trader named Junk. The thugs laughed and refused. They said they only worked with tough-looking people, not weak ones like them. One bragged that a kid had told them a rich woman bought a rock for 1 gold coin. They beat the kid and took his coin to prove the strong prey on the weak. That made Scarlet furious. She decided these men needed a lesson. She boosted her strength and used her time power to speed up. In seconds, she knocked out 3 of them. The last 2 froze when they realized who they were facing, the violent noble woman everyone talked about. Scarlet hit the eye patch guy, then turned to the final thug who had bragged about preying on the weak. He begged for mercy and promised to return the coin to the kid. Scarlet said fine. After he got beaten, desperate, the thug tried to bargain with the location of the slave trader. He blurted out the place right away. Scarlet thanked him, knocked him out, and left him on the ground. Julius was clapping and asked what she wanted him to do while she fought. He wondered if he should have stepped in. Scarlet said no. She didn't want him to intervene. Julius decided it was better for him to go talk to Junk alone. He worried the trader might spot Nanica, or that Scarlet would smash Junk before getting any useful information. Julius used bluff and threat and got the trader to give a location of the next slave auction in just a few minutes. On the walk back, Scarlet called Julius a possible con man. He said that's still better than being a violent maniac. Nanica watched and muttered that maybe this was one of those enemies-to-lovers stories. Then Scarlet and Julius both turned to Nanica and asked him for ideas on how to sneak into the auction. But that's where the video ends. Like and sub to not miss the next part.